Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to the Arena World Championship, Cup 2 of the summer season. And we are potentially about to have the most exciting series of the day. The champions of BlizzCon against the champions of the most recent LAN event, the Spring Finals. And it's Cloud9 going against Method Orange. Of course, an absolute blockbuster of a series that we're expecting to have here. We're ready to hop into the game momentarily. It's Sea-Doo against Cubsy, like some of the best players that we will ever see in competition. Nightground Arena, blind pick, gentlemen, take it away.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happened. Look at that, a 50-50 split between Cloud9 and Method Orange. Zico, what do you think is going to happen in this one?
I'm not sure. I want to see the compositions first. I assume we're going to see the Mage Lock Druid, okay, and we are going to see the Demon Hunter DK Resto Shaman. So this is actually what we saw over in Europe, and this went in favor of the Demon Hunter DK team. However, Cloud9, they have bested Method Orange in this particular matchup in the past. I want to see what strategy is Method Orange going to use. Are they going to sit back, maybe conserve a little bit of their mana? Are they going to go out and just play all out aggressive? And they seem to be going over onto Chanimal here. Trill activating that Metamorphosis, looking like they want to get some pressure going, man.
Yeah, roll the damage on Chanimal, try to get Cubsy out of mana. The one thing Cloud9 is really good at is Wealthy Man backing up Cubsy, Cubsy escaping, going for consistent drinks in the matchup. And I think if they can get that done, they can secure a lead. When we saw this matchup play out yesterday, I believe it was Jabingos playing up against Diabolus. Jabingos, what they ended up doing is they put the Demon Hunter on the Druid, got him out of mana. In the meantime, the Death Knight sat on the Warlock, denied a lot of that incoming damage, and then eventually later on in dampening, the Shaman could just throw out a lot of purges because of how mana efficient they are. They have a lot of gas left in the tank at that stage in the game, and that's something Method Orange definitely could implement.
Yeah, the name of the game is going to be Shut Down Cubsy from Drinking. And once again, Trill is playing that Rain from Above. He's been doing such an excellent job in these tournaments, kind of rotating his I-Beam, his Metamorphosis, and that Rain from Above to maximize his damage. Trill being a top raider in the PvE scene, being able to shut so much damage. And Chanimal right now taking the brunt of it, activating his Spell Reflect right there, getting a couple of fears out onto Maz. The Immolates are coming out to get that flashpoint trait to increase his haste further on. And right now, Trill has actually been using a couple of mana rifts onto Chanimal for even more damage. They might not even be going for the mana rift strategy here, just using the mana rift onto Chanimal for damage instead of trying to run Cubsy out of mana. Another beautiful grip asphyxiate here as we see Sea-Doo take a whole bunch of damage, man.
Yeah, Sea-Doo's going to be taking a little bit of a damage. This is a nice attempt coming in from Chanimal and Wealthy Man. That's the Icy Veins. So big offense going to be committed. And this is a really interesting adaptation coming in from Method Orange. They're not going for the mana rifts. They're just going to train down Chanimal in this game. Sea-Doo's actually playing some really interesting talents. He's playing the Cleansing Water. So I believe he can just drop a Healing Rain on the ground and has a 20% chance to dispel him. So later on in the game, I mean, the main win condition of Cloud9 is getting long, extended crowd control chains onto Sea-Doo. If during that late game period, he's just dispelling himself from Healing Rain, he has a lot of leftover mana, I feel like that is definitely an interesting adaptation for Method Orange and could bank them a win in this one.
Yeah, and there, once again, another mana rift towards Chanimal, but Chanimal actually decides to just sidestep that one and not going to be able to hit him. And Trill, you know, rotating his I-Beam, rotating his Metamorphosis, rotating that Rain from Above. And the reason why is because of that Spell Lance that he's throwing out. He's doing percentage-based damage, doing 8% damage per tick. And Warlocks, they have so much health, so it ends up being very, very effective damage here against these Warlock teams. And this strategy for Method Orange so far seems to be pretty good for them. However, that Healing Rain is going to start costing a lot of mana later on in the game. And Cubsy, when they play like this, is able to just go for drinks however he wants. You can see Cubsy right now in the back, throwing out the Regroughs, throwing out a couple of Solar Wraths as well. Gets gripped up. Beautiful bear form there from Cubsy as well. He's going to make sure that he doesn't get cleaved too much in that swap. And now we see more mana rifts potentially coming onto Chanimal.
Yeah, they're not using it at all on Cubsy. It's just straight up damage on Chanimal. Keep in mind, it's going to do damage to his hit points as well as his mana, which means Chanimal has to use Life Tap more often, which is more damage. So Method Orange just going for pure damage on Chanimal. Both Trill and Mez focusing on max DPS. Sea-Doo His mana is doing quite well, but it's going to be difficult for him to drink in this matchup. He has to be a little bit careful. He's throwing out the healing rains now, but those start adding up over time, and right now we do see Cubsy developing a mana lead.
Yeah, Sidu's already down to about 60% mana so far. He's going to have to be very, very careful. And you can see that little Fell Hunter, that little Fell Puppy, is actually on top of Sidu here. So that's why he's not going to be able to drink at all this game. They don't really have the same, mobility as the Druid in terms of just running away from it and stealthing, dropping that pet aggro. And now we see another Fell Eruption combined with the Mana Rift, doing percentage-based damage onto Chanimal. I'm not sure if this strategy is actually going to work out for them, because Sidu is running quite low on mana before dampening has even set in so far.
Yeah, one thing I said earlier, I actually misspoke. Chanimal does not have life tap. Warlocks don't have that ability anymore, so these consistent mana rifts actually limit Chanimal's ability to get fears. And that's something Chanimal does a very good job of, landing consistent fears. If you're getting mana rifted, he's not going to have that same type of mana to get out that crowd control that the Magelog Druid really needs. And I really like this coming in from Method Orange. It's an interesting strategy. Sidu's sitting down for a drink. Frozen Orb gets dropped down by Wealthy Man. That's going to be looking to deny, but I'm curious to see how this game develops as we march forward into dampening.
Well, another thing as well is that the Frost Mage really annoys these melees with all the polymorph spam, all the fear spam, in general. So the Healing Rain is quite effective in the sense that it just frees the melees. Every time the Healing Rain crits, every time it ticks and the tick crits, the target gets dispelled. But now Sidu caught up in a counter spell, followed up by a sheep, but I believe he got himself out there with that Healing Rain last tick there. Potentially poor timing there from Wealthy Man. We see Sidu actually stopping Cubsy here on that drink, but Cubsy regenerating way too much mana. But Chanimal now in trouble, has to activate his Unending Resolve, trying to counter pressure Mez here, Van.
Yeah, good pressure onto Mez, but unfortunately not going to be able to do too much. And Unending Resolve is a really long cooldown. That's a big victory for Method Orange. Sidu playing a little bit more passive with the Healing Rain, and I think it's intelligent. He doesn't really need it at this point in the game. Later on, it's going to be super effective as, like I kind of mentioned, the main win condition is going to be Cloud9 getting extended crowd control chains onto Sidu, and they could eventually take him down. But Chanimal's been really struggling, and this is honestly some next level stall tactics coming in from Method Orange, just getting the Warlock out of mana with the consistent mana rifts, and it feels really difficult for Cloud9 to get anything going.
Yeah, it just seems like they can't get that same, momentum because the melees are having so much uptime onto Chanimal. Now Chanimal gonna gate back to his side of the map. Cubsy looking for a drink, and honestly, normally we would see the Demon Hunter and the Rest Shaman just all over Cubsy here, but they really don't even care. They're just on top of Chanimal trying to maximize that damage as much as possible. Now we see DK cooldowns coming out. There's a big Frost Nova, but as soon as that Healing Rain starts ticking, all of those pets are gonna get freed up with that dispel. Now Wealthy Man here activating his Frozen Orb, combining it with the Blizzard. You can already see Wealthy Man's Frozen Orb as it's down on the ground, already down to 20 seconds CD. You see it's ticking out. It's almost ready to be used once again here. Frost Mage very, very effective in this matchup when you're just free casting the way Wealthy Man is. And Wealthy Man is actually not opted in for that Freezing Rain talent. There's a lot of rains here, Healing Rain, Freezing Rain, but basically what the Freezing Rain is an instant cast Blizzard. Every time you Frozen Orb, you can see that he has Comet Storm, which is the talent that you would trade for that. Now another double Mortal Coil here from Chanimal. Mez is starting to take a little bit of damage here. What are you gonna do, Sidu?
Yeah, what is Sidu going to do? He has to keep Mez alive during this situation. Frozen Orb gets dropped down, but Chanimal this isn't the same Chanimal. He can't get out the fierce that he's known for. He just doesn't have the mana to do so. Mez and Trill just negating basically everything Chanimal can do. Wealthy Man trying to set something up. That was his Icy Veins. He got the Polymorph on Sidu. He got some damage rolling on Mez, but it just wasn't enough. Chanimal was not able to get out the Chaos Bolts. They just have so many different interrupts. They have Mind Freeze. They have the interrupt from Trill. They have Wind Shear. They have Grounding Totem. Chanimal out of mana. He isn't able to set up the damage normally we see with the fears, and unfortunately for Cloud9, this is looking like it's going in Method Orange favor. There's a big attempt here from Cloud9. Sidu forced to trade out the Spirit Link Totem and the Ascendance, so a bit of an overlap there coming in from Method Orange, and maybe Cloud9 can start developing some momentum.
Yeah, and now we're starting to see that point in the game where the Resto Shaman...
Whoa! All right, Chanimal, he gates away, lands a Chaos Bolt. Good night, Mez, and Cloud9 takes the first game. But honestly, that strategy for Method Orange, I really liked it.
So 22% dampening when fighting Cloud9, the Death Knight gets deleted.
That's the Death Knight delete button.
Not 40%.
Go on.
He had all of his defensive.
Yeah, it should not have died there.
There's no way he should have died there.
That is honestly a throwaway. And I mean, as the analyst in this situation, Sid, do you want to break it down for us?
I mean, that was a very innovative strategy that Sea-Doo and Method Orange brought to the table. The Cleansing Waters talent is usually something you take in rated battlegrounds to remove damage over time effects, but it also removes crowd control. The main reason that it's very effective is the Unholy Death Knight has so many pets that get snared and rooted and can't actually maximize their damage, but the Healing Rain on the ground with Cleansing Water will dispel all of the pets and dispel all of the melee as well to stay on target. It was interesting that they committed Mana Rift as well to the Warlock instead of the Druid. This way they can limit Chanimal's ability to cast Fear. This was an innovative. I didn't think that you could be more dampening when running Demon Hunter Death Knight, but they were playing even more dampening than I thought possible with the Demon Hunter Death Knight strategy, but with a bit of a throwaway towards the end of the game. Although on paper and the way that it was playing out was like, oh, this is super cool. Like, they're getting more uptime, they're maximizing all their stuff, they're making it through the game, but Cubsy was still full mana and kind of just easily healing through it, so I wasn't certain if it was going to work out for them. It was an interesting strategy, but I don't even know if it was going to work.
I honestly, rewatching that replay, I'm super disappointed in Mez, because that is ultimately the biggest throwaway. It's like Dark Soul, it's Infernal, you have Trinket, AMS, IBF. Really should have used something there, in my opinion, because, I mean, we didn't get to see, and Method Orange didn't get to see if that strategy works. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I think it's smart. I'm almost wondering if they thought about that idea from playing Classic a little bit, you know, because in Classic, ooming the DPS is a legitimate strategy. It's how you win most of your 1v1s. And here, you know, they just think, well, let's oom the Warlock. I think Fear costs like 5,000 mana each time. If he has like 1,000 or 2,000 mana the entire game, he won't be able to get those out. So it did seem kind of like 200 IQ strats there from Trill, but do you think they're going to go for that strategy again and see if it works out better the second time? Because honestly, we didn't actually get to see, like Sid said, whether it was going to work out.
Well, it just feels like that is the point in the game. Would you say 21% dampening? At 21% dampening, that's when, you know, the damage from the Demon Hunter and the Death Knight, it really starts taxing.
It's just about to start working, right?
That's when you start winning the game. If you can continue to keep Chanimal out of mana at that point, he can't get out Fears. He's basically just a sitting duck. He's going to be trying to get out Chaos Bolts, and eventually he did with the Gateway, but they had an answer. Method Orange did have an answer. They just didn't use it, and they just had to focus up during those moments, and I feel like Method Orange could have easily walked away with that game.
Yeah, it's just such a shame for them, because they didn't get to see, you know, if they'd lost the game at 45% dampening, having not got the kill, Cubsy just constantly reset his mana and won that way, then fair enough, they swapped the strategy. Now they have to essentially throw away a game to re-see if that strategy will work.
Yeah, I mean, they piqued my curiosity. I'm not gonna go ahead and doom the strategy right away, but in my experience, when you try to go late against a Druid with a Rest Shaman on your team, more often than not, the Rest Shaman ends up losing. I feel like they got to the point where, like you guys mentioned, they were going to start taxing the Druid's mana. I think the big story between the two healers is once you get to a certain amount of dampening, even if the Druid has a full mana bar, he burns through it much quicker than a Rest Shaman can, and that's the big win condition for them, where they just have so much overwhelming damage that the Druid literally can't even go and drink, because he's just going to burn through his mana, and then if he goes and drinks, the Warlock is going to die. I feel like they didn't really get to that stage, so we can't know for sure, but I would still wager that Cloud9 had that game.
Okay, that's interesting to see. I mean, obviously, I think we're all happy that we're seeing Method Orange lock in the same composition here, because regardless of how it would have turned out, it didn't turn out that way because Mez kind of, I think it's ultimately fair to say that he threw. It was all the cooldowns there from, Channels. He should have used something. But, I mean, now we'll get to see it. Hopefully, both teams play out to its full potential, and then we have a good series on our hands here between Cloud9 and Method Orange.
Good map pick here by Method Orange. Obviously the best map to make sure that a Druid doesn't find any drinks. Although, I'm not sure if Cubsy will even need to, as they were committing their mana rift solely onto the Warlock to try and remove Fear from the game, which was an interesting strategy adaptation. I am wondering, and maybe the Warlock isn't the target with the healing range strategy. Maybe you can actually get good uptime on the Mage, dispelling the Death Knight and the Demon Hunter and all of the ghouls out of as much crowd control as possible. We'll have to see. I expect them to play the same strategy and then not make the blunder right as they did at 21% dampening, just to make sure that this strategy doesn't work. But if it does work, then of course they're likely to keep using it.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of in disagreement to what we decided in between the games. I think if Method Orange play the game out really cleanly, you know, Mez trades cooldowns where he should, etc., then this is a winning strategy potentially. I don't like the idea of going after Wealthy Man because I think if you overly spam your healing rain, firstly, you're going to be susceptible to more interrupts, and secondly, you're going to expend much more mana to actually chase after the mage. As we said, the Warlock is kind of a sitting duck here. If they manage to get those mana rifts going early, by dampening, he should be completely out of mana. They deny all the fears. They just have to watch out for polymorphs, essentially, which aren't even that much of a threat because of those blizzards, and then Chanimals should die eventually.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a viable strategy. I am curious if Trill is going to use mana rifts on the Warlock or use them on Cubsy on Hook Point because it's such a small map. I do believe that they could run Cubsy out of mana, using them on the Druid instead. Trill looks like he's got his sights set on Cubsy. He wants to dash across the map, but gets Frost Nova'd by Wealthy Man, unable to get in line of sight. And this is what I love about Cloud9, is that they protect Cubsy. They're not just aimlessly spamming crowd control onto the Death Knight and the Demon Hunter. They time it exactly when they want to cross the map to Cubsy, and this way they're absolutely min-maxing the amount of time that Trill and Mez are not spending playing their characters effectively, and this way they're not nailing mana rifts, they're not building momentum, and Cubsy doesn't even really need to heal. This is why Cloud9 can overcome this matchup as opposed to what we saw with Diabolus versus DHDK Nation. Is when we watch Diabolus play their Mage Warlock, they're just spamming Fear, spamming Polymorph the entire game, not really with a plan in terms of when they're going to be doing it. Damage is pretty high right now from Method Orange, though. Cubsy forced to use Iron Bark on Chanimal. They are using the mana rifts on Chanimal. Chanimal's getting a Demonic Gateway box to box, so if he needs to escape to Cubsy's side, he now has that as an escape tool. Frozen Orb going to be placed down. Sea-Doo responds, dropping that Earthen Wall Totem. Curious to see if he casts the Healing Rain to remove all these Frost Novas. Might not be the most effective while Frozen Orb is active, as it's likely just to reapply slow instantaneously. Sea-Doo is playing a lot more slow in terms of the Healing Rain. I'm even wondering if he's running the talent. I believe he is because he casted it earlier on. He must still be running it. I think on this map, Sea-Doo's main strategy should be maintaining his mana and then going for a Purge attack like we saw Burley do. That was the most convincing way that I've seen this Demon Hunter Death Knight Shaman composition work. Of course, the Healing Rain dispels can be good for building momentum, maybe catch a surprise kill, but the main win condition to me for Method Orange is get Sea-Doo into deep dampening with mana, spam Purge, and then kill the Warlock with that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in principle, and we'll have to see if they do end up doing that. Obviously, one of the big notable differences here for Cloud9 is that since Cubsy isn't the receiver of all these mana rifts, his mana's totally fine. So a Purge all-in from Sea-Doo wouldn't necessarily have the same success rate early until Cubsy actually does run out of mana. And my hope is that after Chanimals gets oomed here, that they'll wait until Cubsy drops low on mana himself just through spam healing Chanimal when he is that sitting duck. And then that's going to be the situation where potentially Sea-Doo could go for an all-in play. But ultimately, I think the strategy here for Method Orange is pretty smart. Chanimals, it's going to be interesting to see how he plays it in late dampening, because obviously right now he's kind of sitting near the pillar, helping Wealthy Man get his AoE damage off, which I think is smart, you know, just keep some passive pressure up, maybe set up an opportunity to win randomly as they did in game one. But after that, I think Chanimal can actually use his mobility to kite away a little bit. You know, we've got an Infernal push here. He could potentially gate away, force Trill and Mez to connect back over to him, as they want to do to continue these mana rifts, and that could be an opportunity for them to really kind of tee off on the members of Method Orange.
I think the main problem is the compositions that both teams are running. One brings a lot of crowd control and durability. The other one just brings a lot of durability. So it is difficult for either team to develop a significant amount of momentum until deep dampening. So in these preliminary stages, the teams are just trying to set up their best case scenarios for dampening. Method Orange feel the best case scenario is to run the Warlock out of mana so they can remove the crowd control fear from the fight. In the past, they have used Mana Rift on Cubsy to try to have the healer out of mana deep into dampening so he can't heal, but Cubsy somehow always gets away and drinks to full mana. So instead of going after the Druid, they're going after the Warlock with those mana rifts, and eventually could overwhelm the team and just run Cubsy out of mana purely based off of pressure. You can see that Cubsy has so much free time that he's just casting Solar Wrath, although it is good for him to maximize his global cooldown usage. Even just adding in a tiny bit of damage might be enough to sneak a cooldown that otherwise Cloud9 wouldn't get.
Yeah, and I think for what it's worth, Cubsy's one of the best healers at doing that. That's one of the reasons that we commend him as potentially the best Resto Druid in the world right now. playing fantastically, both defensively for his team, but also kind of leading the charge with some of this offensive gameplay, whether it be the Feral Affinity or just those simple rafts when you have downtime. You can see Chanimals, the work is almost complete on him from Method Orange. He's almost completely tapped on mana. Every single fear costs 5% of the base mana from Chanimals, so you can imagine that once that blue bar is low, that fear spam will essentially just cease to exist. This should be the final burn here coming in from Trill in this situation. Now the job really starts for Method Orange, though. They need to be careful. Next Infernal's up in about 1 minute, so they'll need to make sure they play around that cooldown this time. Mez can't afford to throw a second game in a row here for Method Orange. Cloud9, of course, for Cubsy, it's just about healing efficiently. I'm really curious how he's going to keep up, though, as Dampening starts to sack, whether it will be Zico's scenario that the Shaman just falls behind, can't keep up with the Druid with full mana, or whether Method Orange will just exploit that sitting duck of Chanimal.
Healing Rain placed here to try and get that Abomination, some max uptime onto Chanimal, and also Trill as well as Mez to dish out some pain. They get Iron Bark, and then they immediately retreat away, realizing they're not going to be able to dent through Iron Bark's defense. Dampening has kicked in. Chanimal's mana is actually doing pretty well. I feel like he was out of mana at this point in the game previous, so I think the mana rifts definitely should be a little bit more on point here from Trill onto Chanimal. Mez isolated again. Let's see how he deals with the situation. All of his teammates are in crowd control. The Solar Wraths are adding in a bit of extra damage, putting the pressure on. Seadu's out of crowd control. They switch to Seadu out in midfield, trying to blast him down. He's going to duck for cover around the pillar. And of course on Hook Point, the small map, Method Orange have this advantage of being able to retreat to safety, but if Cloud9 loses here and goes to the bigger maps, then they're not going to have this. So because Cloud9 won the blind pick, this could easily swing back and forth to a Game 5 where Cloud9 pick the larger maps and win off of strategy. So Method Orange may have to break out a different composition. I think they have to if this strategy doesn't work on their best map. That's almost guaranteed. Now at 12% dampening, Seadu's mana is in a good position for purges. And that, I want to see the Purge all-in attempt, similar to what we saw from Burley's team in Europe with the DHDK Nation. That's the only win condition. I don't think you can win if you don't Purge, but it's a matter of picking when you go for the Purges and then also how you use your defensive cooldowns. Because in this position, it looks like they may have to use defensive cooldowns just to survive, whereas I actually think you use defensive cooldowns to stand on top of the Warlock. So while you're dying, you press Darkness to keep attacking the Warlock and not take damage. And then you press Anti-Magic Zone to not take damage. And then you press Spirit Link to save yourself, and you kill the Warlock because he has less cooldowns than you deep in dampening. It's just a matter of what percent do you make that play, because if you pick the wrong percent, if it's too early, then you're going to use the cooldowns and then die. And if it's too late, then you may just die without using the cooldowns. And so that's what Method Orange have to calculate. At what point do they make their big push?
Well, they actually started throwing through the mana rifts over onto Cubsy already. Trill went for that play a couple of times. The Innovate came out, so Cubsy was able to restore a bit of mana, but they have stopped doing it over onto Chanimal. That's why his mana is fully recovered, essentially. The mana regeneration for the Warlock, essentially putting that to full already. So all of that hard work that we saw in the early game from Method Orange to Chanimal is now essentially mute as we see those mana rifts coming out over onto Cubsy. Doesn't have the Innovate available. It's curious to see whether that stall tactic was just to get them to a threshold of dampening, or whether it would have been better to just keep Chanimal out of mana the entire game. Cubsy now feeling a bit of the pressure. That was the Infernal push from Chanimals. The next one's up in about 1 minute here. And Seadu's mana is starting to wane, so this is suddenly looking better and better for Cloud9. You know, all those disadvantages we talked about have essentially been reduced here. Trill's going to start doing his job of mana burning Cubsy, but with good crowd control once again from Wealthy Man, unable to find it. Cubsy's mana sitting pretty higher than Seadu's, in fact, right now, as we're at 25% dampening.
That is not good. You need to have more mana to be able to purge deep into dampening. Otherwise, Mez, I think, is just going to be torn to pieces by Cloud9 in Game 2, which means they'll put Method Orange on match point and almost certainly guarantee the series, unless Method Orange have a different composition or if they decide to go for that purge strategy. But in this game, I don't know if they have enough mana to do it. And if they have to use those defensive cooldowns like Spirit Link Totem, Anti-Magic Zone, or Darkness, the big team cooldowns that are guaranteed to keep you alive, if they have to use those just to stay alive and not to push, I don't think that they have enough battery power to push through to kill. Decent damage on the Cubsy, a bit random there from Trill. He was using the rain from above and actually just tossing Fell Lances at Cubsy in the back line. Maybe there is opportunity to kill the Druid, especially on Hook Point. Cubsy, is he going to get stopped? Trill's in a poly to dispel him. He goes for I-Beam. He gets counterspelled instantly. How much mana did Cubsy get?
A couple of ticks.
I think just a couple. It's better than nothing, most certainly. Cloud9 are in a solid position unless Method Orange make their decision to push. But if they push right now, then Infernals will get called in. That's why they need to be able to answer that with cooldowns. Infernals are in. Mez grips Chanimal out of the area of effect to try and pull him out of line instead of Cubsy, but didn't really get him too far. Dark Soul activates. There's the anti-magic zone so they can keep attacking the Warlock. Now likely we see Darkness, and maybe they go for a Purge all in, but Sea-Doo only has enough mana for maybe 2 or 3 Purges. They still have Unending Resolve to go through. They didn't Mana Rift Chanimal, so he's actually getting Fears that are taking Sea-Doo out of the game. So Method Orange, now they're dropping the other part of their strategy, although Cubsy is out of mana, so maybe they can win off of that. It's so difficult to call when basically everything is decided in a 10-second window of time deep into dampening. It's very difficult to predict. I would say at this point that Cloud9 are in a solid position, unless Trill lands some Mana Rifts here and dispels off this Innervate. They actually did dispel off the Innervate. Spirit Link Totem has to be used. Sea-Doo's falling behind. This is where the Shaman becomes a liability because you can't heal with only Riptide at this point in dampening. You have to cast very slow heals like Healing Wave, and that's easily interrupted. There's 2 interrupts on the team of Cloud9 that are only going at Sea-Doo, so if he gets interrupted one time, he's probably going to lose the game. He doesn't have mana to Purge. They're already down half their cooldowns. Cloud9's at full health. Cubsy can just run and drink, and then if they try and stop him, they're going to die. I mean, this is it. It's checkmate. Cloud9 have them in checkmate.
Yeah, I mean, this is your Sid's magical 40% Death Knight delete button win condition here for Cloud9 if they can take down Mez. One of the things that I did notice that Mez actually, instead of going for the denial on the drinks using Epidemic, the dot from the disease, he's actually using his micromanagement of his pet, putting his pet over onto Cubsy. But of course, if Cubsy gets away from that pet one time, you know, one root, one Ursul's Vortex, as you can see right now, the pet is rooted, he'll just be out of drink. He's been doing a good job of that. As the pressure mounts higher and higher on Method Orange, they're less and less able to deny those drinks. They really need to just get damage going onto Chanimal. They need to rely on Trill with those death from above, the percentage-based damage that Cubsy surely soonly won't be able to heal through much longer. Doesn't have access to that Innervate, but meanwhile, Mez obviously taking a lot of damage. Still Mana Rifts coming out onto Chanimal at this point, presumably just for the damage. There's no way they're ooming him again. At 44% dampening, this game will end very soon, Sid.
Yeah, Mez in a lot of trouble. He has his own cooldowns. Chanimal actually goes for Unending Resolve to try and answer the Gladiator's Maledict push here. Mez is not trading out the anti-magic zone. He wants to line it up with a cooldown, but the longer he waits, the lower he goes. Anti-magic shield denies Gladiator's Maledict at least, so Mez gets some value out of this cooldown. Trill is feared away. Cubsy, what are you going to do? Are you going to try and go for a drink, potentially risk Chanimal's life? There's actually no defense for Chanimal, but Sea-Doo gets counterspelled into a full polymorph. Reverse magic from Trill. Anti-magic zone is stalling damage for now. Wealthyman's still just casting polys, waiting for anti-magic zone to fade before they push for the kill onto Mez. Icebound Fortitude's all he's got left. Trill flies up into the air, but he can't use Darkness while he's in the air, and Mez was left on the ground. He uses Icebound Fortitude, but that might not be enough at 49% dampening. Trill is feared far away. Darkness may not be a choice if Trill doesn't get back to the team. They're confident to not have to use it. Mez is isolated again with Sea-Doo in a polymorph. They grip Chanimal over, but Trill is far away. He jumps over with Metamorphosis. This has to be the Darkness. There's no other way. It's too late, or he got unlucky there. Unfortunate for Method Orange, but Cloud9 now put them on match points.
I mean, to be honest, I was checking the weather forecast. It said cloudy skies with a chance of Infernals. They didn't even need the Infernals to kill off Mez at the end of that one. And this strategy, which we were praising so much, you know, the Mana Rifts onto Chanimals, it just felt like they didn't actually go for that in the end. They started swapping up the strategy. They let Chanimals regenerate his mana. He became the fearsome beast that he can be on the Warlock, and it was just same old. Method Orange lose.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to agree with what Stupides was saying, though. They need to pick a moment in the game where they're trading out the Darkness and the anti-magic zone offensively in the matchup. What were you going to say?
He's not running cover of Darkness. So
yeah, but still.
The Darkness is...
Yeah, but it's buying a thing at the end of a losing game, right?
Here's the thing. Like, I really feel like this anti-magic zone, even Darkness, even though it's not the empowered Darkness, they're still good to trade out a little bit earlier on in the matchup so you can continue your momentum. Once Mez is in a situation where he has to run behind the pillar like this, it's basically game over. Like, they've lost all their momentum on Chanimal. He's going to get topped off in this situation. Trill's getting crowd control, and too little too late at the end of the game. At 50% dampening, it's just so difficult for a Restoration Shaman to recover the hit points of a Death Knight, and they've already lost all their momentum on Chanimal. And Cubsy was almost completely tapped on mana. If they had just a little bit more damage, they were able to stay in the fight a little bit longer, then they could have potentially found a kill opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really difficult situation here. Method Orange, they just don't seem to have an answer for this Mage Lock Druid from Cloud9. And Cloud9, the Spring Champions, are looking good to take a 3-0. Welcome back, everyone, here to the Arena World Championship, and it is the tight series between Cloud9 and Method Orange. Clash at the Titans, the winner of the past 2 live events that we've had, the International Lands. Cloud9 won most recently, and of course, Method Orange famously took that top accolade in WoW Esports, the BlizzCon title last year. So defending champions for 2 respective tournaments here. Obviously, though, Cloud9 has been getting the better of Method Orange in the last season in spring. Cloud9 then goes on to win the spring finals. Method Orange still doesn't seem to have found an answer here. We're seeing the same
Frost Death
different composition coming out here. So what do we think of this Frost Death Knight? Because honestly, I have no clue.
So Frost Death Knight really has one thing going for it, and it's the fact that you can spec
Delirium.
Delirium
Oh,
and what's the
wow.
other aura?
Heartstop Aura.
Heartstop Aura and Delirium. And basically, those increase the cooldowns on certain abilities, and one of those abilities is Shimmer. So if they decide to go after Wealthy Man, they can basically just train him down, and a mage without Shimmer is going to be taking a lot of damage. I mean, the one thing for Cloud9 is I don't think Frost Death Knights necessarily are the scariest target that are hitting you, but when you have Trill on the Windwalker Monk, this is kind of a curveball coming in from Method Orange. It's not something you normally play against, the Frost Death Knight, but those 2 abilities in combination is the reason why we're seeing it.
Oh, do Frost Death Knights, they do much less self-healing, right, than the Unholy Death Knight? So is Mez just going to be a completely exposed target if they don't get an early kill on Wealthy?
Well, they don't necessarily need to get an early kill on Wealthy Man, but yes, as long as the game goes on, the Frost Death Knight is going to be a piece of paper that the Wealthy Man and Chanimal can just delete from the map. They won't even need Sid's magical 40% number to take that guy out. The other thing is, like you mentioned already, the Heartstop Aura and the Delirium. I believe last time we saw this, it put the blink on something like a
2-minute cooldown or something.
I think it's
50 seconds.
Yeah, it's 50-something seconds cooldown on that blink. So small map like
That's a long cooldown. That's a long cooldown.
Yeah,
Trill going to have a good time on this map.
Wealthy Man's going to get the Chanimal treatment here, just become a potato being battered around by Trill and Mez. One of the other things that's interesting here is that Trill's actually swapping over onto the Windwalker, suggesting slightly more offense in terms of damage for Method Orange.
I mean, it just wasn't working out. Method Orange, basically what was happening in those games is there's a very sweet spot that Method Orange has to hit in order to close out the game, but they were unable to find it, and things just spiral out of control so quickly at that deep of dampening. With the Restoration Shaman, with the limited healing on the Death Knight, once you hit that 40-50% dampening, there's basically a point of no return where if Chanimal ever gets away, it's basically impossible to recover.
It's one of those things, right? Like this series, let's be honest, guys, it hasn't been the quickest paced games. Cloud9's playing for a late game win condition, Method Orange playing for a late game win condition. We could talk about sweet spots the entire day, but ultimately Cloud9 has always been the team that's come out on top. Now Method Orange has a little bit of pressure on them in this game potentially, because they have a way of winning the game. We'll carefully watch the blink cooldowns on Wealthy Man, watch how much he's able to kite away, but Trill on the Windwalker is an exposed target. Mez on Frost Death Knight is a much more exposed target too. Both these guys can die much easier than the Demon Hunter Death Knight we saw last game, so they are under some pressure to actually generate kills in this game, which is something that Method Orange honestly haven't been too much when they've been running this DHDK as their main composition.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult. You know, Restoration Shamans or Restoration Druids right now, they do a lot of healing, and when you don't have that Mortal Wounds effects, it's essentially impossible to take someone down, especially a really good Restoration Druid healing a target like a Destruction Warlock. You really need the Druid to be out of mana, you need Purges, and you need Mortal Wounds if you want to end up securing a kill. I think the Windwalker Monk's going to be a little bit better, but so far Method Orange just hasn't been the greatest start for them. Wealthy Man has been positioned very far away, Chanimal has had great backup as well as Cubsy, and they basically have Method Orange completely pinned down at the pillar. Mez is able to recover, but the one thing about this strategy, the Delirium and the Heartstop, is Mez has to actually maintain uptime on Wealthy Man. If he can never get there, like we're seeing right now, he's just feared away, he's rooted, he's rake stunned, Cubsy's now getting aggressive. then all of a sudden you don't really get that main benefit, as Wealthy Man isn't struggling to get away. He's not tanking a lot of that damage. This is when Method Orange, they have to make a push. They have to commit to staying on top of Wealthy Man and trying to start generate some pressure.
Yeah, I think this is a case of, you know, they have tried this strategy in the past. I think it was actually last year when they played the Frost Death Knight a little bit into Rogue Mage, because Rogue Mage was incredibly prominent. But think about the comparisons between Rogue Mage and a Warlock in the MLD. You know, the Warlock provides double coil, he provides a fear, he provides a gateway, and Cubsy also has tools such as the Ursul's Vortex. All of these things will make it harder for Method Orange to get the uptime on Wealthy Man before they even start thinking about those shimmers, the blinks from the Frost Mage. So there's so many tools that Cloud9 have to nullify this strategy. It's going to be incredibly difficult for Mez and Trill to get that uptime. That said, they do have a little bit right now. Chanimal's therefore spamming out a few fears, trying to help his mage get a little bit away, because once he is, of course, those clones will start regenerating much faster as long as he's far away from Mez.
Yeah, and we look at mana. This small map is going to help Method Orange. It's going to be much easier for them to actually shut down any sort of drinks from Cubsy. As long as CD's on point watching that, they will maintain a mana lead in this matchup. Wealthy Man has actually been taking a significant amount of damage at this point. Big damage coming in from Trill. Chanimal trying to counter pressure the best he can with big Chaos Bolts onto Trill. Sidu has to keep him topped off. Method Orange need to maintain their pressure. They have to stay aggressive in this match. They can't really give Cloud9 an inch to sort of recover, but at this point, Cubsy, he's been sitting down, he's been out of combat, he's in cap form. I think he's going to be able to basically completely restore his mana. Unless Trill was able to shut him down, we'll see. No, Cubsy full mana at this point, and this is a great position for Cloud9 to be in. Yeah, and on top of that, Wealthy Man actually snuck a sheep over onto Sidu. Really impressive considering the amount of pressure he's been put under by the entirety of Method Orange. I have to say, to Mez's credit, he's done an excellent job keeping uptime on Wealthy Man. He'll be able to grip this shimmer. Is there another shimmer available? It doesn't look like it just yet. Double Shadow Fury, a lot of slows coming in, but ultimately Death Knights also have a fair few slows that Wealthy Man's going to have to contend with. His pet's even being interrupted. This looks like an absolutely horrible experience for Wealthy Man, if I'm quite honest. Probably not the most fun. Chanimals, though, will be having a lot of fun. He pops the Infernals looking for some big Chaos Bolts. Yeah, if you want to have any two players back you up as a mage, it's going to be Chanimal and Cubsy you want by your side. So although Wealthy Man's been severely limited in what he can get done, he's still been able to get out decent pressure. I'm kind of curious to see what build he's running in this matchup. I mean, if I was a mage in this particular matchup against a Frost Death Knight, I would anticipate that they're going to be going after me. But it doesn't look like Wealthy Man's really going to be changing up his build all that much in this matchup. He didn't go for the Freezing Rain, which I think could have been a decent adaptation to get out that instant cast Blizzard and try to reset your Frozen Orb as much as possible. He's still opted into the Deep Shatter talent as well, thinking he's going to get some Frostbolts off in this matchup, and he has managed to do so. Method Orange, when they are forced to retreat, you do get value out of that talent as you can spam out a lot of damage. Nice little attempt here on to Sidu. He needs to be careful, tossing out his Astral Shift in order to survive that Chaos Bolt coming in from Chanimal. Wants to just really limit some of the damage output from Cloud9 at this point in the game. And as this game moves forward, I'm not sure. Do you think they're going to have the damage to take down Wealthy Man? They've limited him quite a bit, but the Frost Death Knight just doesn't seem to have the punch sort of required to actually secure a kill. Well, I mean, we are entering dampening right now, and I have to say, I feel like this game has felt faster, at least, than the last two games, just because Method Orange has had some pressure on Wealthy Man. We can see another spell for them offensively right here, getting Wealthy Man kind of low to about 20-30%, and if dampening was at 20, let's say, percent, that could have been the first ice block there, right? So they don't necessarily need to force ice blocks right now. They're kind of testing the waters, seeing what they can get done, because they'll presumably force both of those ice blocks in quick succession when dampening. The healing reduction does stack up a little bit higher. Mez actually trading out the anti-magic zone here in exchange for just the Dark Soul of Chanimals, so potentially an Infernal opening in 1 minute for Chanimals to set up pressure. Wealthy Man again has managed to build some distance here. His Shimmers will be coming back off cooldown, so that means every single time Method Orange go behind the pillar, it becomes harder for them. You know, they use the Death Grip here. Wealthy Man probably has his Gateway back available. He has both his Blinks. So even if they do commit to this play, he's going to be able to kite away with no Death Grip. And it's just every single time they retreat, it becomes a harder task for Method Orange to stay on target. And that plays right into Cloud9's hands. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Bash over onto Cubsy. Big attempt here onto Mez and Shrill. They're trying to take down Wealthy Man. He has the Temporal Shield. Is he going to be able to get it off? Doesn't look like it just yet. Resummoning out his water elemental. Mez and Trill cleaving down. I think Wealthy Man could position his pet a little bit better. You can basically micro it, move it away from just getting caught in all of this cleave damage. You can see him doing that right now, but you need to consistently see that because his pet's just getting mowed down by passive damage. Mez and Trill are able to contribute to this fight, and if he had just moved it to the midfield, for example, you basically have a turret with your water elemental that you don't have to worry about dying. They're not targeting it down, it's just getting cleaved. So I think that's one thing Wealthy Man could min-max a little bit better.
Yeah, Chaos Boss coming into Sea-Doo. There's a big swap here. Sea-Doo doesn't respect it with the trinket, instead uses his Racial to remove the Maledics there. The Fireblood coming in from Sea-Doo on that Dark Iron Dwarf Shaman for this game. Of course, all the players are playing on the tournament server, meaning that they can play any race combination in the game. Obviously, you're not allowed like a Gnome Shaman or something like that, but anything you can have on live, you can have on the game, barring some PvE items. We see the Infernals now flying in. Chanimals doing big damage, but Wealthy Man in the meantime also taking good damage. Unlike Jamili, he has opted for that temporal shield, so he has a good line of defense there to keep himself alive against these melee cleaves. In Cloud9, they're completely chilling in this situation.
Yeah, Icy Veins gets popped out by Wealthy Man. He's looking to get aggressive with an interrupt over on Sea-Doo. Trill portals out of line of sight, but this is an opportunity. Heartstop Aura fades. Delirium's going to fade as well, and Wealthy Man can start regenerating those shimmers, and now he will have those available for the next time Method Orange push in. This has been basically every single time we see these two teams go head-to-head, Method Orange struggles to find a kill, and then later on in the game they get caught in this situation where kind of just everybody's dying. It's difficult for them to push back or push into the game. And Wealthy Man and Channel, let's keep them pinned down at the pillar. Finally, Method Orange, they're going to be moving forward. They're looking for an offensive push now onto Wealthy Man. What are they going to be able to get done? Paralysis onto Cubsy. Is there any follow-up? So far, there's not. Fear Spam coming in from Channel. Good backup onto Wealthy Man, but still, Wealthy Man is going to have a really difficult time getting away in this situation. And I can't help but feel like they're going to continue this pressure onto Trill with the full fear onto Sea-Doo. He's forced to run away once again. He actually decides to just march forward with the Fortifying Brew, looking for a play here onto Wealthy Man. Still good damage rolling. They need to be able to maintain uptime. Temporal Shield gets used. Are they going to be able to burst through it? Big damage. And they force out an Ice Block before the Temporal Shield. A small victory for Method Orange.
Yeah, Heartstop Aura may not have completely done its job here, but Wealthy Man does at least have his heart skip a beat in that situation. He had the Temporal Shield available, but still had to trade out the Ice Block whilst Cubsy was sitting down for a drink, and we're starting to see semblance of pressure here for Method Orange. Mez and Trill with uptime. Here comes the Touch of Death. Earth, Wind, and Fire from Trill. Big damage from both of the DPS, actually forcing Sheeps out onto Mez, and this is huge for Method Orange. They need to keep Mez high on health as Dampening starts to build up. The fact that they're forcing Cloud9 defensive already is excellent. The Infernal's not up for another minute. They need to really burst down the second Ice Block so that they can survive those Infernals and then try to win the game.
Yeah, full Polymorph secured over on a Sea-Doo. Anti-Magic Zone gets dropped out by Mez. That was beautiful. That's the kind of Anti-Magic Zone you really want to see. When Sea-Doo's in trouble, he can drop out that Anti-Magic Zone, so Trill and Mez can continue the fight, continue the aggression on Wealthy Man, and you can see the Heartstop Aura really paying dividends here for Method Orange. Wealthy Man struggling to get away in this matchup. Trill all over him. Mez has to find a way to get on top, and like we've kind of talked about, Mez on the Frost Death Knight is going to be a lot less durable than the Unholy Death Knight, so Sea-Doo has to keep him alive. There's a Spirit Link Totem available, but Mez doesn't have too many tools left to work with. Cloud9 is almost at that 40% mark where the Death Knight just becomes such a vulnerability in the matchup.
Yeah, Cubsy's mana down to about 40%, but equally, the health pools of both Mez and Trill are that low. 35% dampening, healing reduction for both teams. Wealthy Man kites away, uses the Demonic Gateway. Actually, Trill tried to go for the outplay there. If he'd managed to land that Ring of Peace before the Gateway, then Wealthy Man would have surely had to use his second Ice Block. Narrowly avoided. This is the Infernal push from Cloud9. Mez so low on health. Spirit Link Totem comes out, but it does basically nothing. There's no health to distribute for Method Orange. They're in so much trouble in this situation. Chanimal, Wealthy Man, Cubsy, all 100% Cubsy sitting down for a drink, and this looks like the inevitable 40% number that Sid so much knows and loves.
Yeah, the Wizard dominance coming in, Rain of Fire, Blizzard, Frozen Orb, all being channeled out, but Sea-Doo actually manages to recover with the Ascendance. Everyone's topped off. Method Orange have an opportunity. They can get aggressive. There's a lot of offensive cooldowns ready for Trill. What are they going to be able to do on Wealthy Man? He's caught into the stun. Ironbark gets traded out by Cubsy. Mez is going to be very vulnerable in this situation, and Sea-Doo's healing is so reduced because of the high level of dampening. that I really feel like the best sort of defense in this situation is a solid offense. They have to make sure Wealthy Man is behind. They need to kill off the water elemental. They have to interrupt the water elemental, just slowly limit that damage Wealthy Man's able to put out. But Cubsy and Chanimal have had such good backup in this game that I feel like Method Orange, they've ran out of time.
Yeah, Venruki's Water Elemental. The worst nightmare would be separation from your Water Elemental as a Frost Mage here. Wealthy Man has big pressure on Method Orange, to be honest. Sea-Doo hasn't even been able to recover. Since the Spirit Link, his health has been dropping down just from various dots. The pet from Chanimals, 45% healing reduction. This is essentially a sharpened blade the entire rest of this game. Wealthy Man dropping low, doesn't have access to his second ice block, to his first ice block, so he uses out the second. No more ice blocks available. Cubsy, sure, he has some mana, but he also has 50% healing reduction to contend with here. The Earthen Shield Totem was dropped out there for that offensive push. Now Sea-Doo without anything. Chanimal looking to carry any points of damage. They are essentially going to win them this game. There's no mana left for Method Orange. Cloud9, I mean, sure, Wealthy Man has no more cooldowns, but I'm pretty sure Chanimals could solo Method Orange at this point.
Yeah, we'll have to see what they can get done. Wealthy Man, he's playing it passive. He's just mounted up. He realizes Method Orange basically is in a situation where they cannot recover. He just needs to get distance. He needs to stay away. Bash on Shrill. Good backup by Cubsy. 50% dampening. Sea-Doo's completely out of mana. They're trying to make a push on a Wealthy Man, but he's kiting away. He's done a good job. He's held on to his Shimmer. Frostbolt spam coming in. Can they take down Mez? Chanimal trying to set up his team. Lands a Fear over onto Sea-Doo. He trinkets out, but he's got no healing. Mez activates the anti-magic shell. They're looking for that final push. Temporal Shield, as well as the Iron Bark used by Wealthy Man, but I think it's Mez that's going to fall. Spear onto Sea-Doo. Mez getting low, 53% dampening, and Method Orange, they got to go back to the drawing board. Cloud9 once again commanding victory over Method Orange, 3-0.
Yeah, it was their best game, definitely Method Orange, but Wealthy Man just played it smart. You know, as soon as Method Orange fell back during the ice block, he just literally mounted up and said, Chanimals, I'm done, you finish the job.
Yeah, I mean, when you don't have any blocks, just mount up and run away. It's pretty
Rocket
easy.
science.
I mean, everybody knows that, right? So here, of course, Mez and Trill, they force out the ice block, and then they retreated here, and then immediately you can see Wealthy Man on his mount just running away, giving Chanimal time to spam out the fears, spam out, you know, the immolates, get some of those soul shards going, and build up that pressure. Of course, Sea-Doo, he has no mana whatsoever left, and here Mez, he's playing it very patiently. He doesn't want to use his anti-magic shell while he is in that Nova. He wants to make sure that he can reach his target, and there it is, grip, leg sweep, and there is the anti-magic shell overlapped with the Earthen Wall Totem, but I mean, it doesn't really matter that much this deep into dampening. Chanimal immediately counters with a beautiful double Shadow Fury, and then they close out the game.
Yeah, really well played by them. Actually, surprisingly, the Frost Death Knight survived to our longest dampening game of the day with the 52% coming in there. So I guess some sort of consolation prize for Mez, but they do drop down to the lower bracket. We can take a look at that right now. We're 4 series into today. We have 2 series remaining here in lower. The boys vs Cloud9 is a guaranteed Sunday matchup. Winner going through to the grand finals. And this is something we would not have been surprised about at all in the spring season.